So many women move from dieting to restriction to intuitive eating, and something still feels off about this. They still experience food noise, emotional eating, confusion and hunger, maybe weight gain. So intuitive eating works best when you've healed your emotional eating. And I know that might be confusing because sometimes intuitive eating is positioned as the solution to your emotional eating. So intuitive eating promises no food rules, eating what your body wants, honoring your hunger, and food neutrality. But if you have emotional eating, intuitive eating rules can feel really chaotic because they don't help you heal your pattern and they don't give you guidance. They kind of leave you floating in outer space without any structure. So I started with emotional eating for a really long time, and I tried every diet, I tried everything I could, and I would always swing from really restricting to sort of letting everything go and trying to, just eat what I needed. And it felt really confusing and chaotic. And that was because I hadn't healed my emotional eating. And so as I slowly started to resolve my emotional eating and my relationship to food, I realized that intuitive eating wouldn't have been the solution. And just a caveat here, back when I was doing intuitive eating or discovering this, there wasn't a word for it. And intuitive eating as we know it is really popularized. And what I've noticed is that a lot of the women that share about it, they have a background in nutrition. And so they have a lot of experience with food, what's health giving or health depleting foods. And so they have a lot of knowledge around that. So their intuition or experience of food is different than the everyday person. So when I had had enough of my emotional eating and just my relationship to food, I was really at a big rock bottom. I kind of threw everything out the window. I decided to move countries from Canada to Korea. I changed careers from being an analytical chemist to teaching English. I kind of threw everything out the window because nothing was really working for my life, for the way I was relating to food, how I felt in my body. And if I look back at this period, this is when I was intuitively eating because I threw every rule about diets out the window. I started eating things I hadn't eaten before. And I just was like, I am just sick of feeling so restricted. And so during that time, which was several months, I'd say about 6 months, I started eating whatever I wanted. I didn't put any rules on myself. And I moved to Korea. I was eating whatever I wanted, whatever was available for me. I was in this new country. And about a month into being in Korea, I realized, oh my God, I'm just eating like fried dumplings and just like things that don't make me feel good. I can feel like the grease on my skin. I don't feel good in my body. There has to be a better way. Because I just didn't even want to look at any diets or anything. I'm like, there has to be a better way because I don't feel good just doing whatever I want either. And I would also fall into these big emotional eating spirals. I would get triggered and just like eat and eat. Even if I had healthy foods in the house, if I had cereal, I'd just eat and eat and eat. And that didn't feel good either. And so I had to start step by step figuring out what hunger was in my body, what felt good in my body. And around this time, I figured out that I was an emotional eater. So I found this resource that helped me to see I was an emotional eater and this pattern. And this resource helped me to see what was true hunger versus emotional hunger. So that helped me, that in and of itself helped me to discern something that intuitive eating doesn't help you discern. It doesn't help you look at triggers. It just says whatever food pops into your head is the food you should eat. And that might be coming from an emotional space or it might be coming from an actual body level hunger space. And I don't know about you, I don't want to eat my emotions because my body is not ready for food. And that's where the problem lies. And so in intuitive eating, it doesn't give you a clear way to know what your true hunger signals are. What is true hunger? Because emotional hunger and emotional eating hunger cues and urges feel really, really strong. I remember thinking I was hungry all the time. I can discern the two until I started working with it at this level. I also started to recognize that my emotions and finding these triggers, these emotions, I was using food to cover up my emotions. And I was trying to feel okay. So along with noticing that I was triggered into emotional eating, so learning what true hunger versus emotional hunger was, that helped me to get into body acceptance, honoring my hunger signals, but honoring my body and how it looked and what it did for me. All of these pieces started to come together. And so when all of these pieces started to really work together, catching my emotional hunger, truly nourishing my body, working with the triggers, getting to the root, accepting my body, that's when my patterns started to noticeably shift. It didn't happen all in one go, but I realized, I feel more at ease around food, but I needed these other pieces to really feel, I'm actually hungry. So what is my body asking for? What is it intuitively asking for? And that opened me up to experimenting with different foods, because obviously the fried foods did not feel good in my body. I had to find foods that felt good. And obviously, at this time, something else that happened around this time was that my digestion was so off. I was not going to the bathroom. I had to figure that out. And you don't feel good when you're not digesting. You don't feel good when you can't go to the washroom for days. And this is all part of nourishing your body, seeing how you feel in your body. If you're not going to the washroom, you're not going to feel good in your body. And so I started to realize, there are so many levels to this. It's not just eating whatever you want. It's how are you digesting the food? How do you feel after you eat a meal? Do you feel good with food? Is your relationship to food nourishing you, making you feel healthy and vibrant? Or you're just eating whatever comes to mind? Because I think that's the easy way out. I started to incorporate that into my journey, and that became part of my intuition around food. When I eat this food, do I feel good? Does it help me go to the bath? Does it help me go to the bathroom? Does it digest well? Is it making me feel satisfied for a few hours after? Is it making me feel good about myself? Do I feel not greasy and like stuck in my body? Do I feel like flow and vibrancy? And I was like, this is what it feels like, because you don't want to have a meal and then you're out for a few hours, because I had meals like that where it tasted so good and then I would feel so tired and lethargic after. I wasn't digesting it well. And I really had to notice these things around this time. And so as I started to put these pieces together, separate out my emotional eating from my true hunger, start to look at the foods I was eating, start feeling good in my body, started noticing this felt like energizing and creating that relationship to food, because I was, I started to develop a love for nutrition in a different way, not to restrict and lose weight, but to feel vibrant and to feel good, because I realized how much food could impact my physical body when it wasn't connected to emotional eating. And this is what created my true intuitive eating, because from that point on, my journey with food and what I ate started to shift. I started to experiment with different foods. I started to understand the body more, understand digestion more, understand what felt good in my body. I wanted a different view on food that wasn't just about dieting and losing weight. I wanted to feel vibrant. I wanted to feel my best. I started to feel more and more connected to food, at ease around food, peace around food, because I just started to enjoy food. It became something I actually loved versus something I was battling with. And it became the symbol of how I cared for myself, how I nourished myself. And that was part of my journey with, I guess you could say self-love, but really about acceptance, accepting my body needed certain foods, accepting my body as it was. And the more you accept yourself, your body naturally starts to shift to it's healthy. It starts to release weight if that's what needs to happen. That's what happened for me. I started to have more energy, better digestion. These things are all interconnected. And so looking back at my journey versus what I hear about intuitive eating, because I've heard women say, they go on this diet roller coaster and they're like, I'm just going to start intuitive eating. And what happens is they start eating whatever comes to mind. They start gaining a lot of weight. So there's this uncomfortable period. And for me, there was that period, but it wasn't I was trying out intuitive eating. I was trying to figure out what my body needed. And I quickly realized this doesn't work. There's something more going on. It's not just I'm restricting myself from these foods and my body's craving it. No, I also have this pattern of using food to soothe myself. I have this emotional eating pattern, and that's another layer. And so when I'm working with clients, we are moving through these steps as well. They start learning how to truly nourish their body, how to accept their body. We move and we work through the triggers that are coming up when it's emotional hunger and getting into the deeper root and resolving that. And as we do that, you're more clear about what feels good in your body. You start feeling vibrant. You start putting in foods that feel good. And I give my clients a framework around how to nourish themselves. So we're looking at how are they digesting foods? How do they feel around foods? When are they hungry? Is it true hunger? All of these things are so important as you start creating more trust in yourself around food while healing your deeper emotional eating. So emotional eating is not really about the food, but as we use food in this way to cope and to help us, kind of pacify our emotions, we don't really have an education around food or an understanding, a body awareness of how food feels for us. So it is not really about the food, but we also need to rebuild our relationship to food. And while intuitive eating seems like this place where you can land, I've heard it time and time again from clients that they feel so much more out of control with food. They don't have a structure. And if you look back at children or anyone, we don't just want freedom for freedom's sake. We need boundaries and we need a structure. And when we have that, that's when we truly feel free and we can feel sovereignty. And that's what I've been able to create for myself. I haven't emotionally eaten in over 10 years, and I help my clients do the same thing. And so if you want to get started on this journey, I'd love to invite you to download my free guide. It is literally the first step that I give to clients, and the first step that really helped me to see that I was an emotional eater and to see my emotional eating. And so this guide is called What Are You Truly Hungry For? It'll help you discern true from emotional hunger and to start catching your triggers. So you can find the link below. And if you want more support around your emotional eating, I'd love to invite you to find out more about the Emotional Eating Evolution Program. This is my 12-week container with the step-by-step process. There are one-to-one sessions with me, weekly office hours, and the deeper tools to help you shift your emotional eating at the root so that you can get to ease and peace and confidence around food and in your body. And so if you would like to find out more about either of those resources, you can find out more below at the links below. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.